In today's heat map, we reveal some shocking sex trafficking numbers from a recent 14-state sting operation. During the 3-week sting that ran during the end of January and the start of February, 552 people were arrested, and that includes 30 sex traffickers and 522 Johns soliciting sex. In Washington, Seattle police arrested 54 Johns, including one guy who had recently escaped from jail. In Texas, officers arrested 9 sex traffickers and 183 Johns, including a city employee who was arrested trying to solicit sex while driving a city vehicle. And in Illinois, the Cook County Sheriff's Office arrested 79 Johns, including a guy who pulled up in an Uber to meet with a prostitute. For more information on the bust that also included law enforcement agencies from Nevada, Georgia and Indiana, go to crimewatchdaily.com. And in our new series, Stolen for Sex, we visit the vacation paradise of San Diego, where this dark underground world of child sex trafficking is thriving. These are the broken children at the heart of our underage sex trade. Not in some faraway third world nation, but right here in America. It seems unthinkable that in 2016, here in a place that some call America's finest city, the child sex trade is flourishing.
It happens right here in every city, in every part of this country. They're child rapists, that's all they are.
Girls will be held hostage inside of motel rooms, locked in cages, treated like dogs.
Kids as young as 12, traded among pedophiles and underworld American gangs in much the same way as guns and drugs, the nation's most tragic commodities.
They both raped me, drugged me, beat me, and I've slept with probably over 50 men in 2 days.
It is a sick and booming market that at times can even be deadly.
The violence and the tattooing and the beatings and the starvation and the putting them in ice baths. When these bodies of young people and young women are found that, no one cares about, the throwaways of society, children can't prostitute themselves. Someone, a trafficker, is behind the scene.
San Diego Deputy District Attorney Summer Stephan is on the front line. She says human trafficking is the world's fastest growing crime, worth an estimated $32 billion annually, $810 million here in San Diego alone. How young is the youngest victim you would have encountered?
The youngest that I've encountered was 12 years old. The detectives who entered the room to rescue this girl, when they talked to me, they were literally crying.
Janona Lilliard was even younger than that, forced by her own father onto the streets at just 5 years old to perform sex acts for money.
He put me on a sidewalk and men started walking up to me and they'd take me in alleys, women as well, and I'd watch them give my dad the money and then they'd come and take me and do whatever they wanted.
The abuse continued for years, her depraved dad even organising group attacks at his home in San Diego.
He'd have like a group of men sitting in the living room and he'd introduce me to them and basically said, "This nice man just wants to talk to you, and if you talk to him, I'll take you and let you pick out a couple outfits or get you a nice toy."
That is just unimaginable for you. How old were these men?
One guy was really, really old. Had, I think, like an oxygen tank with him.
We contacted Janona's father by phone and he told us in part, "I don't have anything to do with her, I have nothing to say, and please don't contact me again." It's barely conceivable, but for Janona, things would get even worse. After moving into a foster home a few years later, she would be kidnapped at gunpoint on the street by a pimp.
He picked up his friend, then we drove to Motel 6 in La Mesa. And when we got there, he asked me to take off all my clothes. And they both raped me at the same time.
She was then injected with drugs to the point where she became almost catatonic, unable to fight back as she was repeatedly abused by dozens of men.
I knew then, I was like, this is it. Like, they're gonna kill me. I was actually praying that they did.
They'd broken you to a point where you were ready to die.
Yeah, I was like, just do it already. Like, begging, just do it.
But fate had other plans for this brave teenager. Against all odds, as the abuse was unfolding, a police officer randomly knocked on the hotel door.
He brought me outside and I told him, I live in a group home, I was kidnapped, I don't know those two men. They both raped me, drugged me, beat me, and I've slept with probably over 50 men within the last 2 days.
50 men in 2 days?
Yes.
As a teenage girl?
Yes. I seen him get a little teary-eyed and then he gave me a hug and he told me, he said, it's done. You don't have to. Sorry, I get emotional.
What was that moment like when the police officer took you in his arms?
You know, being abused by a bunch of men, including your own dad. I don't know why, I felt really safe with him. And when the two other detectives got there, they just made me feel really, they gave me clothes to put on. They didn't look at me like, oh, she's a prostitute or she's a whore, you know. They seen me for who I was. And since then, I've never looked back.
Sadly, on the streets of San Diego, her story is not uncommon. Of the roughly 12,000 trafficking victims in San Diego each and every year, just take a guess at the average age, between 14 and 15 years old. Tiffany Mester was just 13 when she was first sold for sex, given by her own sister to a San Diego pimp and threatened with death unless she met nightly performance quotas after she finished school.
If I didn't make the quota, then I wasn't allowed to come in, I wasn't allowed to sleep, I wasn't allowed to sit, I wasn't allowed to eat, I wasn't allowed to do anything. I think one time I was walking the streets for 18 hours.
So as a teenage girl, you were expected to be seeing often 5 to 10 customers a night?
Or more. You might even get an 18, 19-year-old male buying sex from you, or an old 70-year-old man.
What did that shame feel like? What was that to you?
I think the best way to describe it is like a heavy weight placed around you that you just carry with you, like a 100-pound cape that just drapes over you and it just weighs you down.
I used to call them wolves, but wolf is really, it's an insult to the wolves to call them that. These are grown men, gang members, organized crime, that are using these young girls, taking advantage of their vulnerabilities, their poverty, their maybe mental disabilities, to make money off of them day after day.
Next, I meet one of those wolves, a gangland enforcer turned pimp who agrees to sit down with me to tell his story.
I think I always had the edge on certain confrontations because I'm ready to die right now, like if that's what it's going to be.
Plus, I walk the infamous trafficking tracks with a brave survivor sent to prison after shooting and killing her pimp. We literally just saw a pimp arrive and collect a carload of girls.
Yes. It's like sleeping with the devil.